so much for joining us here today for our first of our Animal Career Series. So this is Animal Career Day with Life Support Systems. So we hope you're going to be joining us back here. We're going to hopefully do these weekly as we go and find our interviewees from all over the world. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first one. So hello there. Why don't you go ahead and tell us your name?
Hello, I'm Sebastian Sprain.
Nice. And why were you interested in sharing your experiences?
I've been told I can say the truth, that my wife is the manager at Lion Habitat and she told me to do it.
Yes, awesome. So as you can see, guys, we're actually pretty well connected in this field. And for full disclosure for fun, actually, I happen to know bass before I knew Denise, back when I was still working with dolphins before the Lion Habitat Ranch. So it was a whole bunch of things. So this is a really fun career field that's pretty well connected. So why don't you go ahead and tell us where you're from?
From Northern California. That's where I started in the field. I lived in the Caribbean for a short time of my life, also working in the field there. And then I moved to Las Vegas where I worked in the field, and then I've lived in Salt Lake, and I'm back in Vegas now.
Fantastic. Well, what is your specialty when you were working in animal care?
Water filtration, water mechanics, chemistry, and scuba diving.
Okay. Now, all in all, that has a kind of specific name that we might hear referred to. If somebody was to walk in and have that kind of title, what would it be called?
So it's typically called life support. There is a weird connotation that goes with that. If you are not in the animal care field, you say life support, people tend to think, are you in first aid or emergency response? No, it's the life support systems for the marine animals.
Very cool. Awesome. So does that require any sort of additional education, certification, or experiences if somebody was to want to get into the field? Where should they start really focusing their educational attention, be it certifications or maybe experiences too?
Well, it's a little different in that field for animal care because it parallels a lot with construction. So where there may not be necessarily specific college degrees, although there are some you can get with biology and chemistry, it also comes down to the trades and having any kind of apprenticeship programs, any kind of mechanical work, any kind of welding, pipe fitting, plumbing, carpentry, that kind of work. But the life support work heavily entails more towards water, so anything that is with water, pumps, mechanics of that, filtration systems, and then again, going back to the plumbing, pipe fitting.
Nice. Okay. So definitely something that would probably be more on the technical side. You'd want to see somebody with a little bit of that experience before coming in for an interview or something like that. Okay.
Correct.
Nice. So then what did a day in your daily life kind of entail?
Well, it depends on the facility. If you have a facility that has 3 rotating crews over a 24-hour period, the beginning of the shift is going to be the passover area, passing over any pertinent information that happened on that previous shift. If there's not, and you're having a system that's automated and ran by computers, then you come in and your first thing you're doing is looking at the screens and all your monitoring equipment to make sure everything's running optimal. From there, your day consists of changing filters, taking care of pumps, cleaning, calibrating, doing chemistry tests, and the occasional scuba diving when that comes up.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. You talk about cleaning. Does that include cleaning the exhibits? How do you clean around animals, in water specifically?
Well, ideally, the animals are typically gated into another pool, so generally divers are not usually with them, although that does happen every now and then. But yeah, it's cleaning the exhibits of varying type of algae.
How do you clean it?
Old-fashioned scrubbing.
Old-fashioned elbow grease. Very cool.
There are mechanical scrubbers you can use. There are really powerful ones. Those take a little more skill and finesse and a little more time to learn those. But for the most part, yeah, it's just old-fashioned elbow grease.
Nice, nice. So do you have a favorite animal that you were working with, be it a specific one or maybe a species that you really found maybe challenging or fun to be around?
I think when I go back to my first years in the animal care world and I was working at a place in Northern California, I worked with walruses. And those always had a spot for me. They were just like being around big giant dogs. They were just friendly and fun.
Did they require any special cleaning?
That exhibit was on a normal day in the mid 40s on degree water, and
Oh,
so it was just cold a lot. But I mean,
cold.
they're Arctic animals, so that's their natural environment. It's not our natural environment, though. So
Right. So you have to
we're wearing
adapt.
very, yeah, we're wearing very thick wetsuits, even sometimes when we were allowed to.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. So, what do you think there's something about your job that nobody would expect when they think about life support systems? This is not what's going to be on their radar. What do you think?
That we exist.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
When most people go to aquariums, they tend to be fascinated with the different kind of animals, whether it be marine mammals or any kind of fish species. But people don't tend to realize that there's a whole filtration system and people maintaining that filtration system.
Very cool. Very cool. So then what is just a common misconception about what you do? If people do know that you're there, what's a common misconception?
The misconception would be that we're not approachable because we tend to be very gruff and almost parallel to construction workers again. So a lot of the animal people tend to be really nervous coming up and talking to us and asking us for any kind of projects or help with any kind of programs.
Okay. Are you gruff and unapproachable?
I think you know the answer to that from being one of my divers.
Hey guys, he's not. He's fine. All right. So what was one of the hardest parts of your job?
When you get into a world like life support, I guess the easiest way to say it is sometimes there are multiple different avenues to one goal. And so when you have 3 or 4 different solutions to the same problem, it becomes confusing and you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So communication between the life support staff and even the animal care staff sometimes becomes a very challenging aspect.
Right, right. It's teamwork. It's really the whole department sometimes, I'm sure that can be hard
Exactly.
to communicate between everybody. Yeah. But what was the favorite part of your job?
There was challenges that I enjoyed. It was always the challenges of like the puzzles. How can I obtain the next goal, or how do we there was one example where a couple years ago we were trying to figure out how to increase our oxidation levels in our pools without actually increasing our oxidation. And one of the ways we came up with was increasing our turnover rate, our flow rate. And this was at the Dolphin Place in Vegas. So it was always those weird little challenges like that that were fun and engaging for us.
Right. And so that's what you were referring to.
Or those occasional times when animal care would come up to us and say something like, we have a project, we want you to make some kind of a device that we can hold an object in for people. So it has to be clear, it has to be able to float, but also sink. It cannot have any sharp edges. And they would give like 20 different variations on what it can't be. But then there's this picture they have in their head. And now we have to try and figure out how to make that happen. And those are always the interesting challenges as well.
Awesome. So do you think that if there were kids today who say, hey, I want to be in zookeeping, I want to maybe work with animals, but I really feel maybe I want to work with my hands, do you think that life support systems would be a good fit for them?
Life support's a good technical side of the animal care field. I used to say that we're the wrenches of the animal care field. People, when they go to zoos and aquariums, tend to only see the animals, hear about the educators and the trainers, never really hear about the people that are actually maintaining the facilities, a lot of the engineers, a lot of the maintenance workers, the technicians, and that such. Yeah, there's definitely a technical aspect, and if that's something you enjoy doing, then animal care is an interesting way to it because you basically become a front row seat to the animal care world then.
Very cool. Well, I want to give a huge thank you to going through this interview. Now, guys, if you're following along, go ahead and stick around for follow-up to these interviews. We want to do Animal Field Career Day and what it really takes to be in this field in lots of different ways. So you might not want to go and scoop poop every day. That's fine. There's lots of different things you can do. So stick back. And remember, we really, really need your donations right now. So if you happen to have a chance to go ahead and share this, get the word out, or you can go and donate right on this Facebook page. You can also donate. Just a few dollars helps. You can go right to our website, which is lionhabitatranger.org. Once again, I'm Keeper Kylie, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.